pledged to update the country on her independence referendum plans within weeks, regardless of the Brexit timetable. And to bring us up to date, we're joined by our political editor, Brian Taylor. Good morning, Brian. Well, let's start with Indy Rev 2 then. Are we looking at the beginning of a fresh independence referendum campaign in the coming weeks?
Certainly the tone from Nicola Sturgeon was one of a First Minister getting ready. She was questioned by Patrick Harvey, questioned quite closely. He's of course a supporter of independence. The Greens are generally supporters of independence, and he was questioning her first of all on the readiness for pursuing the demand for a further referendum, and secondly he was saying, would it happen regardless of whether there is a postponement of Article 50 and there was a prolongation of Brexit? She said yes, a single yes to that, and then perhaps realised the answer was a little curt, and said she would continue to answer that point, saying she rather liked talking about that issue. Well, she does indeed. Of course, it is the raison d'etre of her party. It does look more likely than not. I mean, I was speaking to senior nationalists afterwards, and they say it is still a strategic question as to whether they go ahead with this, because there is an argument that Brexit presents an opportunity to the SNP, because Scotland was told in 2014 that the way to stay within the European Union was to stay within the UK, and that has not proved to be the case. But then there is the counter-argument, which is that there is such a degree of uncertainty among the constitution debate, and therefore among the people, that perhaps now is not the time to offer a further transformation in the constitution. That quandary has been confronting the SNP for some time, but it sounded from the tone yesterday that she was ready to make that demand.
And is there a sense, though, that the two are linked?
Yeah, very much so. The Brexit was stressed in the SNP manifesto. Of course, the vote in 2014 was to stay in the UK, and the SNP said in their manifesto they would only revert to that in the event of a complete a change in circumstances. I can't remember the exact wording, but they specified that one transformational change in circumstances would be Scotland being taken out of the European Union against the declared will of her people. So this, if you like, has been coming for quite some time. Now you have the Conservative argument is that the SNP have been talking up the problems of Brexit in order to prepare themselves for an independence referendum demand. The SNP, Nicola Sturgeon says precisely the contrary, that they have tried to compromise with the UK government at every turn, but it has proved impossible to represent Scotland's interests as they would see them politically in regard to single market membership and the customs union membership.
Yeah, and any indication as to how the opposition parties might approach another push for independence?
Well, if you recall, the last time Nicola Sturgeon demanded a referendum was not long after the Brexit vote itself. She subsequently shelved that, saying she would revert to the question later. We're not expecting that to be fairly soon. But at the time that she made that demand, the Prime Minister said explicitly, now is not the time. Davison said the same, David Mundell said the same, and we spoke to Jackson Carlo, the interim leader of the Scots Tories, after Nicola Sturgeon's comments in the chamber yesterday, and he said no way. He was quite explicit that the Prime Minister would turn this down. Now, one or two senior SNP folk that I spoke to said that doesn't necessarily cause a dilemma, because you bear in mind that quandary for the party as to whether now is the right time. And one figure I spoke to said that it could be the ideal situation, that the Nicola Sturgeon demands a referendum is seen in that regard as standing up for her quarter, standing up for the interests as she perceives them, standing up for Scotland, as she would argue. The Prime Minister turns it down, and it then becomes a handy tactical campaign point for the SNP up to the next local election.
Well, let's talk about the Prime Minister. The SNP's Westminster leader Ian Blackford did meet Theresa May to discuss the Brexit impasse this week. Do you remember another week like this in British politics?
No, well, I've been covering British politics and Scottish politics and European politics for a rather long time. It is a complete failure of government, but it's also a failure of governance. It's a failure of governance in the Commons, more generally, a failure of governance in that there appears to be no palpable way for the Commons even to address this, let alone resolve it. I think that Jeremy Corbyn would have perhaps been tactically wise to go for at least a single preparatory meeting with the Prime Minister. I understand his point that he is demanding the ruling out of no deal, but it can sound a little petulant to a fretting nation that he's not even prepared to talk. It would have been, I think, smarter perhaps